Welcome back to the High Yield Birding series, where we share tips, tricks, and other advice to level up your birding game. In this video, I'll discuss how I would choose a new birding binocular. A modern binocular of decent quality is one of the best investments that any birder can make. Rugged, relatively inexpensive, and often sold with a lifetime repair or replacement guarantee, modern binoculars have an incredibly low amortized cost for the active birder. There are few purchases of lower risk and higher return on investment that a birder can make in their lifetime. Contrary to popular belief, it's not necessary to purchase a top-of-the-line model, although the amortized cost of expensive, high-end, multi-thousand-dollar binoculars is still very low, as long as you use them regularly. None of my binoculars cost more than $300, and the ones I use for birding approach the quality of much more expensive models. For the budget conscious, this saves money that can go toward birding excursions abroad or the purchase of camera equipment for bird photography, each of which can be much more expensive. Remember that where, when, and how you go birding are far more important than the brand of binocular you use. That said, if you consistently have an unpleasant experience viewing wildlife through binoculars, especially on your very first birding trip, you will probably not want to go birding again. I've met too many folks who miss out on the fun of birding for one of four main reasons. Some have cheap, low-quality binoculars through which they can't see much of anything, while others use nice binoculars that are not appropriate for birding. Yet others have the right kind of binocular but don't know how to use it. And finally, some have no tools for magnification with them at all and are just trying to bird with the naked eye. Now, if you do not currently have a birding binocular that works well for you, these are the top 10 tips that I would keep in mind if I had to find a new one today. Tip number 1, use a high-quality birding binocular. Beginners, especially, need a birding-appropriate binocular, much more so than experienced birders do. Get a decent 8x42 or 7x42 binocular that's waterproof, fog-proof, and shock-proof. Now, it made a world of difference for me when I upgraded from a nearly useless cheap binocular to this mid-range 8x42 Nikon Monarch about a decade and a half ago. The first number, the 8 or the 7, is the magnification relative to what is seen with the naked eye, while the second number, the 42, is the diameter of the objective lens in millimeters. All else being equal, a larger objective lens will let in more light and gives you a brighter image of the bird. So compact binoculars, like this one that have smaller objective lenses, this is an 8x25, are not as effective for low light birding, such as on forest trails. You can also use a binocular with 32mm objective lenses, such as an 8x32 model. These are typically lighter, smaller, and easier to carry than 8x42 models. However, you should know that prime-time birding is typically in the early morning or late afternoon when there's not much light available. So if you're a forest birder or otherwise bird in dim lighting conditions, you might have an easier time with a similar quality model that has 42mm objective lenses. Now, it's tempting to purchase a higher power model, such as a 10 power or 12 power model binocular, but I don't recommend anything stronger than 8 power if you're a beginner. Remember that any tremor or movement of your hands is magnified by the power of the binocular. So any handshake or tremor associated with using a higher power model might be so significant that it prevents you from being able to find, identify, or even enjoy viewing the bird. Tip number 2, pick a binocular with a no-fault, lifetime repair or replacement warranty from a stable manufacturer. This means that it doesn't matter how or when your binocular broke. The manufacturer will either repair it or send you a new one. Birding is tough on binoculars, which can be knocked out of alignment with falls and other significant impacts. So it gives you peace of mind to know that the manufacturer will fix or replace yours for the cost of shipping it to them. Generous warranties also imply that the binocular is durable and that it will not need repair. You might be thinking about buying a used binocular. A used binocular is fine if it has a lifetime warranty that is transferable to you. You could then get it repaired or replaced by the manufacturer if something happens to it. Be sure to read the fine print before committing. Tip number 3, try to get a binocular with the widest possible field of view. Field of view is the width of the scene that you can observe through the binocular at a given distance. 300 to 400 feet at 1,000 yards is acceptable for birding, while 400 or more feet at 1,000 yards is an ideal field of view. This makes it easier to find small birds that are moving quickly near you, or to track flying birds at a distance. Tip number 4, long eye relief is important for those who wear eyeglasses. Roughly speaking, the eye relief is the distance between the tip of the eyepiece and the surface of your eye, within which you can still see the entire scene that is presented by the binocular. Now, if you wear eyeglasses but you use a binocular that has very short eye relief, then if you bring the binoculars up to your eyes, the distance from the tip of the eyepiece to the surface of your eye is longer than the eye relief, and your field of view is going to be smaller than that experienced by someone who does not wear eyeglasses. It's generally recommended that eyeglass wearers use a binocular with at least 15 millimeters of eye relief, but the appropriate eye relief varies from person to person, and it will also change based on which eyeglasses you wear. Now, I have eyeglasses that sit closer to my eyes, like these, and I have some other eyeglasses that sit farther away from my eyes. So I personally prefer about 20 millimeters of eye relief. Tip number 5, your binocular's close focus should ideally be no longer than about 8 feet. Now, close focus is the nearest point at which the binocular can focus. Now, the close focus point does vary between people who use the same binocular, but some binocular models are simply able to focus more closely than others. A small close focus distance will allow you to see hummingbirds, butterflies, and other critters that venture near you. Tip number 6, it's especially important to have a binocular that focuses quickly and accurately. You don't want to have to turn the binocular's focus knob forever to get the bird in focus. Now, on the other hand, you don't want the binocular's focus knob to be so responsive that it keeps focusing beyond or before the bird with small adjustments. The full range of focal distances between the close focus point and infinity should ideally fall within a single complete turn of the focus knob. Now, another important point is that the binocular should have a sufficient depth of field to allow you to focus quickly onto birds. From a functional standpoint, a large depth of field means that if the bird moves closer to or farther from you, your eyes can still focus onto it, and you don't need to turn the focus knob of the binocular. Now, if the binocular has a very shallow depth of field, it can be difficult to achieve focus when viewing a bird. Now, if the bird is moving, that makes it even more difficult. You constantly have to turn the focus knob to try to focus onto it. Tip number 7. Now, a binocular with ED or extra low dispersion lenses, or with the highest quality lenses that are currently available, will usually be best. But you should know that a binocular with lower quality lenses might still have so many advantages that it's still excellent for birding. Now, in any case, edge-to-edge clarity, distortion minimization, and razor sharpness of the image through the binocular are preferred when they are not offset by the disadvantages of that particular binocular. Tip number 8, get a roof-prism binocular like this one, in which the eyepiece is in line with the objective lens, not a porro-prism model in which the eyepiece and the objective lens are not in line with each other. Porro-prism binoculars have a longer close focus point, they are slightly more difficult to hold, and they're more likely to go out of alignment. Now, if you purchase a roof-prism model like this one, it should be fully multi-coated, phase-corrected, and should not have any coatings that remove colors from the image. Tip number 9, try out candidate binoculars in person, such as at an optics store, or have the option to return them if needed. You'll find plenty of thorough reviews of particular binocular models online. Keep in mind that these reviews have limitations. For example, reviews are limited by the fact that individual binoculars of a particular make and model have different characteristics from each other. Now, another limitation occurs when only a single person evaluates the makes and models in question. This person doesn't have your eyes, facial structure, hands, or eyeglasses. Use reviews as a guide, but not as the definitive word on what you need. For example, I decided to try out the Athon Midas 8x42 ED based on a gushing online review. But my first copy was worse for birding and less durable than my 15-year-old Nikon Monarch 8x42. The old Monarch is lighter, has never needed repair, it acquires focus much more quickly, has a larger depth of field, and has more eye relief, which as a bespectacled birder I definitely appreciate for not having to mash the eye cups against my eyeglasses to see the full field of view. So despite the higher quality lenses of the Athlon Midas ED, the Nikon Monarch was superior for birding. However, I do have another copy of the Athlon Midas that is superior to the Monarch. The other thing to note is that my first copy of the Midas was replaced by Athlon through their terrific warranty system, and the replacement is also superior to the old Monarch. Since I carry a heavy camera and lens setup on my birding hikes, which leaves my arms tired after I've handheld the camera for a sequence of photos, I have often thought that the ideal binocular for me might be a 7x42 model with a wide field of view and long eye relief. A 7-power binocular would provide a more stable image than an 8-power binocular would. The right binoculars for you are a very individual decision. A very high-yield thing to do is to try a binocular in person before you commit to it. By taking different kinds of binocular out for test drives, you might even find that you prefer a different kind of binocular than the ones recommended here. Perhaps a high-quality 8x32 model works better for you than the 8x42 models that you were able to try out. Tip number 10, you only need one, but redundancy is a good thing. You might need to send in your primary binocular for repair, so it's good to have a backup binocular. You might also have friends who express curiosity about birding, but don't have their own binocular. If you have a spare, they can go birding with you when they come over. Going out with only one binocular and planning to share it usually does not work very well. Now, it might also be a good idea to have a 7x42 or 8x42 model binocular for general birding, but to have a 10-power model for specialized applications like hawk watching or for birding on large bodies of water or at the coast. In the end, you simply need a binocular that enables your birding without hindering it. Now, if that's what you already have, then that's all you need. That's it for today's episode of High Yield Birding. Now, if you're just starting out as a birder, let me know what you'd like to learn about. Tell me what you think of this episode below. Be sure to click like and subscribe and check out our other videos.